Welcome to Every Night is Game Night, where two busy dads get games to the table by any means necessary. Check us out, along with other great podcasts, at dicetowernetwork.com.
Every Night is Game Night, episode 117. Should I Buy It? Part 3, Chronicles of Crime. Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome back to the Every Night is Game Night podcast. I'm your host, Jason. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome back to our little Should I Buy It cluster of episodes, focusing on some really hot releases that are going to get a ton of expansions over the next little while. So it's a really important thing to know whether these things are worth your money or not. So to that end, I have reached into the Gamerverse for people who have done the thinking, done the analysis, played the games a bunch of times, and are here to deliver you their insights. We did Heroes of Terranoff, we did Arkham, lots of Arkham last time. Hopefully you had a little bit of fun with that. This week, probably my favorite of the three games. I mean, this game is amazing. I'm spoiling it. What am I doing? This is Chronicles of Crime. What I did this week was I asked my friend Brandt from the Portal Gaming Podcast. You've heard his voice on the show before. He's been on a co-host on a couple times now. Helped us out with Root and a couple other games. So you will hear all about how we like Chronicles of Crime, how it compares to Detective. I've seen that thread at least 4 times on the different Facebook groups and all over the place, Chronicles of Crime or Detective. So we're going to come at it from that perspective. So hopefully at the end of that, you'll be able to make an informed decision to be able to spend your hard-earned cash on Chronicles of Crime or not. It is totally up to you. So I hope everybody out there is having a great holiday season. I'm still trying to get some sleep. If anybody knows a remedy for a gassy baby, hopefully by the time this episode airs, my infant has kind of let loose and isn't so stopped up and won't keep me up at night. But I'm not going to let it stop me from coming on here. It feels really good, actually. It feels really good to talk with you guys, talk about games, all that stuff. So we're going to do Chronicles of Crime. And then after that, I'm going to give a couple of gift suggestions, kind of based on reactions to some of the gift guides that I am seeing around. What gift guides tend to do is kind of give the latest and the greatest, which is fine. Like, you want to make sure that, people can actually get the games that you talk about, because, you don't want put your favorite games and they happen to be out of print or hard to get or, only on eBay and all that kind of stuff. So I get that. But I think there's some really, really, really amazing games that are basically beyond the Hotness buzz that would make for good gifts as well. So what I'm going to do after we do Chronicles is I'm just going to give a couple that I think have slipped through the cracks a little bit, but that might make really good gifts. And because they've slipped through the cracks, they might be on discount, which is yay. I am a big fan of that. I got a child upstairs. He has to have diapers. I've been, kind of selling some games, in and out kind of thing to be able to sustain this collection and, keep my baby in formula and diapers and all that good stuff. So, that's what's going on with me. What is going on Kickstarter? That was the worst transition I've ever done for this in Liz We Trust segment, but whatever. I'm going to keep it. We are going to get to the Kickstarter segment now before we get to the episode. Liz is back to give us news on another one. Hit it, Liz.
Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I'm here to encourage your Every Night is Game Night acquisition disorder. This week, I want to talk about the current hotness on Kickstarter, Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon from Awakened Realms. Tainted Grail is a dark reimagining of Arthurian legend that promises expansive cooperative gameplay, multiple characters, good art, a variety of miniatures, and plenty of branching story text. The core box will run you about $88 plus shipping, while the higher pledge tier will run you $138 plus shipping. If this sounds like your sort of game, check out the campaign before it ends on December 28th. Happy gaming!
All right. Thank you, Liz. As we always say, in Liz We Trust. I hope that is another project that is worth a look for you. All right, let us get started with the meat of the episode. Should I buy it? Chronicles of Crime, comparison to Detective. Is this worth your money? This is the point where I would introduce my esteemed guest, who is the host of the Portal Gaming Podcast. He works for the Portal Gaming Store, the best store in the Northeast. I haven't been all over the country, so I won't say all in the country, but gosh darn it, I can't imagine a better one. This is the point where Brandt we usually say hi or something like that, but that all part of the audio screwed up, so I'm just going to scrub it and go on to the meat of the episode. Sorry, Brandt. All right, let us get into the first half of the episode, which is Chronicles of Crime. So Chronicles of Crime, how much have you played of Chronicles of Crime, Brandt?
3 cases.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's about what I've played. There's not that many cases out. I got the Kickstarter stuff, so I have extra content around, but the actual cases themselves are not on the app yet. It's just a couple of cases that are on there, so there's not a lot of stuff to play with just yet, but it is coming. Oh, it is coming. Okay, Chronicles of Crime is designed by David Cicerell, published by Lucky Duck Games. It is a fully cooperative crime-solving game in the vein of a Sherlock Holmes consulting detective. There's a lot of these coming, so, especially like in the escape room vein, just like you're a bunch of people around the table solving something, either, solving a puzzle or solving some sort of murder mystery or something like that. We're getting a lot more and more of these. So what stands out about this game? So this game, I would say it probably has the most app integration of all of these games. You're looking at about 75%-ish of the actual game content coming in terms of an app. When you buy the base game, the components are fairly minimal. I mean, you get this little box. It's not that expensive a box. And you're going to get a board that you track some stuff. And you have some decks of cards. And the decks of cards, there's a couple of different types of them. One deck of cards has faces. So it's just faces. It's just, men, women, children, different races, different, vibes going on. You have a deck of like 50 cards, just faces. And then another deck with stuff, but it's basically a deck of clues. So it's a smaller deck, and the deck is like, one card will say blood, one card will say bags, and, another card will say food. And they're very general. They're general on purpose. So that's really all you get. You get some locations that too. And they're going to be very generic as well. So you're getting this box full of generic stuff. The action is in the app. The action is in the cases that you will either buy with the base game or unlock for like $5. You can buy like individual cases or different packs or whatever it is. So then the case, like they're very, very different, and they use all of the physical components. So let's say you have one case, and the case is like, it's murder, and you're going to talk to Officer so-and-so about a poisoned candy apple that's laying on the floor. And that's the interaction that you have. Or there's another case where it's a grand larceny case, and you're talking to a bank teller about a gum wrapper that is sitting on the floor. Both of those cases are very different, but they use the same exact components. So you're using the deck of cards or using one character. It could play different roles depending on the case. Kind of like a American Horror Story. If you guys watch that show, same actors, the story changes different seasons. I know I threw an American Horror Story reference. I don't watch that show, but I find it fascinating how they work all that. So what makes it happen is that each of these cards has a QR code, which is a little barcode thing that you scan. And that's what represents talking. So like the game will prompt you, okay, talk to this person, scan the code. The app will talk to you and give you feedback on what you're doing. So that's kind of how it works. That's kind of the basics of it. And then the other piece that's really cool is you don't just talk to people. You don't just gather the information. You actually, every once in a while, you hit a scene, a crime scene. And the scene is represented in your phone or app as VR. And how that is you get to, it blows up on your screen, and you get to like kind of take a 360 look around a crime scene. So, let's say you're in a room, you could look at the door, you could look at the window, you could look at the chair, you could look at the dead body in the chair, which I showed one dead body to my wife. She's like, oh, I don't want to watch that. I'm not playing that. I'm like, no, this game is great. Spoiler alert, this game is great. But you're looking around, and you're wandering around your room, and you're taking note of what's there. And, you have to like kind of look, okay, oh, there's a thing on the, that looks weird. That's a weird communication device, or that's a phone. Pull the communication device card, save that for later. Blah, 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 blah. So that's the two parts of the game, the VR part and the actual scanning of the clues part, talking to people. You're going to deduct some stuff, spoiler. And at the end, you get like you have to do it within a certain amount of time. And that's the resource of the game. There's only one resource, time. Everything takes time, and you have to do it smart, kind of match things together. At the end of the game, you'll file a report. Who did it? How did they do it? Why did they do it? All that kind of stuff. There are VR glasses. Brandt, did you play the game with the VR glasses?
Yes, I've only played with the VR glasses.
Okay, so you're going to have to tell me how they are. I hate VR glasses. They discriminate against real glasses. They just don't match real glasses. I'm watching them, and it's like I'm watching a foggy fishbowl. People try to go to a 3D movie or whatever it is. I wear glasses, fools. This is a terrible experience for me. Brandt, you tell them how awesome VR glasses are in this game.
Okay, so I actually have a problem with my eyes where I don't see 3D super well. So I can't go to 3D movies because my left eye is so much stronger than my right eye. It just takes over. But it works for me, and it's buttery smooth. Like, you put the glasses on, it's just this little plastic. I was even afraid it was going to scratch my phone screen. Nothing. There's like a little piece of, not even rubber, but something that's right there, like a softer plastic right where it connects to your phone. And it's really smooth. I was impressed. It's not really super 3D. It's almost like spinning around to look at a 2D painting. Right. It's more like that. So I think that's where I can see it well. Yeah. But I was surprised. These little glasses look cheap. And yeah, I did it first at Dice Tower Con because I played one mission at Dice Tower Con, and then I played a couple at home. So yeah, they work great. And that works perfectly well. You get like 45 seconds to look, and then everybody in your party can look around. So the more the merrier, kind of, is what happens. I don't think you can say like, oh, I'm playing with one person, so give me longer time.
No, you can't. If you're playing with one, I played it solo. And this is like, don't play these games with a newborn. Just don't. I did terribly. I had to play like 3 or 4 times just to make any headway, and I played like slowly with my arm and VR glasses in my other arm. It was terrible.
He really couldn't help with solving the cases either, huh?
No, not even close. Anyway, so the most I could ask for was that he not be an impediment, which thankfully he was able to do that. Okay, so again, VR is not necessary. Every mod, even with the glasses, comes with a mod. You don't need VR glasses for that. So if you're afraid of that, don't worry about that. The cases themselves are not replayable, but the components are reusable basically infinitely. Like I said, it's just cards with faces with QR codes and clue cards, and they just mix them up. There's almost infinite possibility here in terms of people making cases and then releasing cases. And then there's expansions with different faces and different locations and different kind of meta rules. Oh my God. This 9 out of 10, like just straight out. I mean, we'll get into like why it isn't 10 out of 10, but I'm not a case solver guy. I like but don't love some of these case solving games, but it is so much fun. The VR works. The modularity of everything works. You have these like specialist cards, and you can like kind of look at the specialist cards and reference. Okay, I see a dead body. Let me call the doctor. Let me call the guy at the morgue. So smooth. Like, you spend a lot of time in the app scanning stuff, but after a while, I just didn't like notice. I got so wrapped up in like this cool, pulpy, comic booky story. The cases are not complicated. There's only like 2 or 3, it's not like it's a wide variety of suspects and you're narrowing them down. You're just like 2 or 3 suspects and a couple of ways it could go. But that's enough to be engaging. A couple of hours, family friendly and challenging enough. Like I said, I did not win these cases, partly because I was distracted, but whatever. I mean, dude, I so recommend this game. I so love it. Before we get to the detective comparison, just let me know how you thought of the overall game experience.
Yeah, so I don't think I was quite as smitten as you are. I don't know.
Oh my God, I love it.
You throw out,
I love it.
You throw out your ratings really fast. I'm probably more in the 7.5 to 8, but I want to be careful of saying I don't like it as much. Or I'm not like absolutely in love with the game. I try to always take a step back, right? Like I'm reviewing so many games, and like you said, I played so many games. I think I've played like 220 this year. So, so I try to step back and think like if somebody I was talking to and they just wanted to buy this one game, they would be totally happy with this one game, right? Like
Right.
this game is great. So even if I feel like there's games that are better, it doesn't mean that the games that aren't as good are bad. And that's what I love about board games is even though we're having this, giant thing of games come upon us, they're still really good. So I will tell you the things I don't like about this game first. So first off, you've played multiplayer. So I totally agree the app is smooth, but it's very strange. One person ends up holding the phone for a while until they're just like, oh, I've been holding the phone for a while. Why don't you take it? And you start clicking things. And depending on the angle you're sitting at, it's almost easier for one player to click those codes. You can obviously spin the card, so I don't want to make that sound like it's super complex. But that's a little bit weird. Like you have to just choose to pass the phone. Otherwise, people aren't doing things. Obviously, when you look at the scene, that works out. I found that in some of the cases, like there was a key object you need to find, and when we did it at Dice Tower Con, none of us found the object. So I believe Vincent is the owner of Lucky Duck Games. I'm not sure, president, whichever, and he was the one who gave us the demo. He's like, did anybody find this item? You need this item. So he kind of clued us in. Right. And when I played...
It was funny, but you mentioned that because so I did one of the cases. I won't, no spoilers. But there was one case I could not find the thing, and I went to a certain location, and there was like a yellow bar that appeared after a while that it didn't like tell you search this, but it really like if you noticed it, it was like search this. You didn't search it enough. Search it again. And I'm like, why are you flashing at me? Leave me alone. And I left the area. Like it has a kind of subtle hint system. Maybe it's a little bit too subtle.
Right.
So maybe that's a little bit of a criticism, but there are nudges in the game. So I'll just kind of that's the answer.
So just one other thing, particularly is so eventually you look at this scene and then you have all these cards you take out. Well, those cards are very generic. They're books and newspapers and clothing and undergarments, and like there's just so many things, and you have to decide, like, are the books important? Are the magazines important? Is the bloody knife important? Hint, the bloody knife is usually important. Right. Is the ceiling important? Like, there's just so many things in the room, and that time element, like you said, is so key. That's basically the resource of the game. And at one point, we literally had like 16 cards in front of us, so you scan those cards to see if they're evidence or not. And we just could not spend the time to scan all 16. So you kind of have to hope that you found the right items. We generally did. So like you said, the hints were pretty good and what was obvious. But they put a lot of stuff in the room, and then they almost become a lot of red herrings. And that was a little bit tricky. But
Right. And also, like, if you play like a point-and-click adventure game and a video game, like, Monkey Island or whatever, when you put together the thing and make the third thing, or like put the key in the right hole, the key disappears out of your inventory. So the game is telling you, this is not important anymore. Nothing disappears in this game, so it's all there to the end. So you might have like a little bit of cognitive load, just like, okay, what's important? Where did this go? I don't know if this goes with here and this goes with here. I don't know if this thing is useful for 5 things or 3 things. So I could see like a bigger like group getting a little bit frustrated with the mechanics of how that works.
Yeah. But the app is so good. It's such a great app. And anytime that you make a mistake, it's completely your fault. Like, the app is very good at telling you, like, when you stop talking to somebody, it's like a big goodbye button. Like, it's just very obvious that you want to stop talking to this person. When you travel to a new location, it's great at setting that up and telling you what to put out. Like, it's really good, and it works really well. The QR scans very easily. Like, there's only a few times where we're just trying to get the right angle because we were kind of trying to scan the card almost upside down. But yeah, it's really nice. And the stories, like, you get a bunch of information and then you go with it. You roll with it, and the story makes sense.
Yep. So compare it to Detective. So Detective is a game I've not played. I've watched a whole playthrough though. When I finished Chronicles of Crime, I wanted to compare. It was my natural comparison. Loaded up a stream, watched the entire first game being played. So I think I have a sense for how it goes. But you actually played it, so just lay out. Like, we've already described Detective, so just lay out what the differences are between the two.
Yeah. Okay. So Detective is way more in depth. I mean,
in a word,
right on the box, it says 2 to 3 hours, per mission. Chronicles of Crime, maybe we played over an hour on one of them, but it's basically an hour or less. And I can imagine solo, you were probably 45 minutes max.
No, I spent more time.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time.
So whichever
and I had
it
a baby,
is.
So
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But so the main difference in detective is like there are basically no red herrings. Every lead leads to something. Now, thematically, that doesn't make sense, right? A detective perfectly always figures out where they should go. But game-wise, it's really exciting because every time you draw a card in the game, you go somewhere. You get information. You move forward. It might not be as good as a different lead that you followed, but it moves you forward and maybe gives you another piece of information. The campaign structure is really cool, and I actually appreciate that Chronicles of Crime. It does have one 3-part campaign in there, but I appreciate the non-structure of a campaign as well. But it's neat in here because sometimes you don't get information for this case, but you get information for a future case. It's really neat. Detective requires you to take notes. I mean, it's asking you. It tells you straight out. You should draw a board, like a brain chart or whatever, and have all this information. I mean, Kathy and I followed that. We had multiple papers. If I open our box right now, there are no less than 12 sheets that we've already written on our first 3 cases of information. It's very thorough on that front. There's lots of different things to follow. The app is not on your phone. The app is like a website that they created, but it is fully thorough. So in terms of that, I loved Detective a lot more than Chronicles of Crime. Like, this is one of my favorite games of 2018. And I thought Chronicles...
That is not a popular opinion looking around Twitter. I think people are kind of little hesitant on Detective. That's why I wanted to get you on.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy to me. It's so good. It's so interesting. I know that, so the biggest negative to Detective is at the end you get your score, and it's like the first mission I think is out of 40, and I think we got like a 26 or a 27, and it tells you like, excellent job. But as a math teacher, a 26 out of 40 is not very good.
Well, I think, okay, so you mentioned before about taking notes. I've heard this described as homework of the board game. So, like, there's a point where there's a lot, and it's rich, and it's deep, but you kind of tip over, and it's like, you almost have to, like, absorb everything. There's so much flavor text. You have to read every single card, and a lot of cards have a ton of flavor text, but it doesn't matter, but you have it in the back of your head. They're like, oh, this might be important. So you spend a lot of time, like you were saying before, there's no red herrings. There's just a lot of fluff and a lot of stuff and a lot to get through, a lot of fight through. Like, it's not like a crisp experience like that. And, and it's this very heady experience, and that's one part of it. And then the other part of it is that it's not just like smooth, where in Chronicles of Crime it's just time, like you just spend time. Like in Detective, you get stress, and you have authority tokens so that you can kind of follow up on leads, and the witnesses change depending on, like, if you catch them lying, if you have this piece of evidence. Like, there's a lot more there. It sounds really cool, but does it cross a threshold of being too much?
No way. Too much is what makes it so good, because it's so rich, like there's so much to the story. You're not joking though when you said like you have to take so many notes and there's so much information. I mean, you cannot get all the information. I think there's either 35 or 36 cards for each case, and at max you go through 19, 20 of them. Like, you don't go through all of them, so you never even get all the information. So you've got to make connections from the information you have. What they will do is at the end of the case, they will tell you the answer to that case so that you have all the information going into the next one. So anything you got wrong, you will not retain wrongness going into the second case. That make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, but like,
so they give you all that. Yeah,
See,
I don't know. I think I love that part. I think that's the part I liked. I'm
looking
doing
at them. I'm looking at a stream, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm I know I'm not as connected as I could be. Watching a game through a stream is just not the perfect thing. Like I even played Pandemic Legacy Season 2 through a Skype. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Try. I mean, I know I played it with a group in New York. I didn't really no choice, but so I get that there's a distance between that. But I'm looking at what the players are doing, and I'm like, I'm not having fun watching this. It's just so much, and sometimes you might follow a lead and just through no fault of your own, it just veers off into nothing, because you didn't follow the right train, or you fell for some sort of trap, and it's to spend that much time doing that. I don't know. Like the thing about Chronicles of Crime that I really liked, as a person who's not, I'm not an escape room guy, and I'm not like a case solver necessarily, but the tightness of it, they managed to find that sweet spot for me. So I imagine there's a lot of folks out there that are not, this is like the case solving genre is not in board games. So I imagine there's not a ton of folks who just get off on that. It's like, oh wow, I have to have this. This is a really nice gateway to it. It satisfies me. It's enough. It is perfect. It is enough. It is right in the sweet spot. It has the eye popping candy of, the VR and everything. Just some little niggles which we covered, like Brandt mentioned before. You get a little bit of information overload. I had a little bit of problems with the cases. Spoiler. I'm not going to say too much about that, but I mean, 9 out of 10. I only have 20 games in that area. It's in my top 20. That's a lot. So just boom, Chronicles of Crime. Just get it, Brandt.
No, I totally agree. Chronicles of Crime is great, and what you were just saying is totally true. You could just pick up Chronicles of Crime. You can have a couple come over to your house, eat dinner, and play a case of this afterward, and that's a great evening. Nobody felt tired or exhausted by that game. You can't do that with Detective.
That's correct. You are in for a time with Detective. I just think there's a little too much crunch and fluff in the way. They managed to find a way to put a little bit too much of both. But for you, the too much, there is no such thing as too much, because it's just all depth and it's all good.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. But like I said, I'll go right back to the beginning. Because I like Detective better than Chronicles of Crime doesn't mean I dislike Chronicles of Crime or even want to avoid playing it. I am ready to play Chronicles of Crime again. It was a great experience. It's just much more compacted. The information just comes at you, boom, app. Let's try this. Let's go. Oh, a new location opened up. Let's obviously go there. Let's talk to everybody there. It's just kind of giving you all those options to get as much information as you can,
All right, so that was Chronicles of Crime. We're going to wrap it up here. The next part of the episode, we are going to cover... we'll explain a little bit more about it after the jump. But until then, Brandt, thank you so much for filling in. Thank you for your expertise, even though you're completely wrong.
I love being wrong.
Thank you, buddy.
No problem.
All right. Thank you very much, Brandt, for helping us out. So that was Chronicles of Crime. That was our third deep dive. Should I buy it? I hope that you got a lot of information to answer that thread. The thread that comes up on Facebook, Chronicles of Crime or Detective. Chronicles of Crime is a more app-heavy, kind of eye-candy friendly, lower accessibility bar in terms of getting into it. Shorter cases, but very, very satisfying, very, very fun. My preferred one, but that doesn't mean Detective is bad. I had kind of a experience with it, kind of watching it, seeing it played, but there are some people who just really love it. And, Anthony really loves it. He's, kind of a more graduated case solver because he does a lot of these things. He does Sherlock Holmes, the consultant detective, just in his couch. And I would never do that. So either of those games are good, depending on your taste. We hope I laid out all of the kind of angles on that to make sure that you have all the information you need in order to make a purchase. So for this last episode, I wanted to look at more games to buy. Isn't that what this is all about? What should I buy for myself and for my loved ones? So I wanted to take a little bit of a step back because a lot of the gifts that people are talking about are games from 2018. So, for example, over on Board Gamers Anonymous, our beloved Anthony gave his 5 games. Well, he gave a bunch of games, but especially in the solo context, he gave a bunch of games that came out in 2018. The games that he mentioned were Welcome to, the kind of roll and write-ish, with cards, filler type game. He talked about Now Boarding from Tim Fowers. He talked about Sprawlopolis, which is the excellent a little button shy game. We haven't reviewed it here, but not for lack of awesomeness, because that game is really, really fun. Talked about Renegade, which we've talked about Renegade a bunch. Very well deserved. Ricky Royal, really excellent game. That's a good purchase. And then Heroes of Terranoth, which you heard all about in our episode a couple of weeks ago. So mentioned all those games and mentioned, the Board Games Anonymous crew did a whole bunch of categories, mostly 2018 releases. Dice Tower, they have their list, a lot of 2018 releases, not all, but most. And you go around the interwebs. I think, what was it? Semi Co-op, the webcomic that works with cool stuff. They have their list, and there's a whole bunch. So yeah, a lot of games that are new and available. What I wanted to do is throw out 5 games that I love, but that are not 2018. So these are games that you can get. They're in print. I checked, either in Cool Stuff or in Amazon or something like that. They're games that are very gettable, that the publishers are behind them in some way, either by continuously keeping them in print or continuously kind of demoing them at cons, or they have some expansion content coming. So you're not just getting a dead product that is just about to disappear. These are all awesome games that are kind of behind the hotness. So here's 5 more games for your gift buying pleasure. So the first game is by Matt Leacock. Matt Leacock could probably fill his own gift guide by himself. I was actually tempted to talk about Pandemic Rising Tide, which was the pandemic version of last year that nobody is talking about. That game just kind of came and went. There was some difficulties with the style of it. There was some difficulties with the graphic design, so not a lot of people got into it. I personally love it, so I'll just throw that in as a bonus. Pandemic Rising Tide is also a decent one to pick up. But the one I wanted to talk about was actually Mole Rats in Space. So Matt came on the show to talk about Mole Rats in Space when it came out. It is a children's game, but it is a really kind of pandemic-y, or more like forbidden, in the forbidden style of, rats on a ship, and you have to, you're kind of dodging all these obstacles, and you're playing these cards, and you're kind of making your way up slowly the different levels, and you have to escape, which is excellent. Or either escape or take over the ship or something. I forget. It's been a little while, but I'm looking at the shelf. I was like, oh, I should get that to the table again. I really, really liked it. Challenging and cooperative, so you can play it yourself. You can play it with kids. And it's still in print from Peaceable Kingdom. Peaceable Kingdom is an excellent little company that makes a lot of children's games. Go ahead and check out their extended catalog. So Mole Rats in Space is my first choice. So the second choice I'm going to talk about was a game that actually came out with all competitive mode, but later, after the fact, the designers came up with a co-op module. It is Stop Thief. So Stop Thief is from Restoration Games. It is a very old game that got restored by Rob Davio. And now, instead of like this kind of janky technology thing, it now has full app integration. So it's a game of hide and seek. So you guys are going to be on a board and you're looking for a thief. And the thief is kind of going, the board is full of spots, full of hundreds and hundreds of spaces, and it's hidden movement. So the app is going to simulate the thief moving from spot to spot to spot. And depending on the clues that the app gives, so like if you're walking, it means that they're at this type of space. If you hear glass crack, it means they've crossed through one of the glass panes. So you're kind of deducing where the thief is. And if you catch a thief enough times, you win. Competitive mode, you're kind of like racing to catch the thief. But there's a co-op mode. You all work together. And you have to kind of stop the thief until before he steals a bunch of money. So there's a certain amount of money the thief is going to steal. He's going to steal different artifacts or whatever from around the board. So you have to stop him before that happens. Co-op mode is great. A little simple, if I remember correctly. I need to get it to the table again to see if they've updated the app. But the actual gameplay experience of it, amazing fun. Really, really loved it. Actually, I did play it recently at a game at the competitive version, and we just had a great time. And this was recent, and this is a release from last year. Lot of longevity. Stop Thief is a good one. Number 3, we've talked about this way back in episode 7. This was the first solo episode that I ever did for ENGN. This is The Pursuit of Happiness. So this is from Artipia Games. Artipia Games, in my heart recently, I backed their Kickstarter for to replace the funds that were stolen from them at Essen. And their Kickstarter was for promos for different of their games, like A Thief's Fortune and Pursuit of Happiness and a couple of others. So, I don't need them. I don't need the promo, but they, wanted to support them. I love what Artipia is doing. Konstantinos was a guest on the pod. I had a good time with him. So, Pursuit of Happiness, Game of Life, the Euro game, very lightweight, friendly Euro. Solo mode is basically the game itself, but it has these goals and you kind of changes up to what you're trying to do. So maybe you're trying to accomplish all the Euro stuff you're trying to do in a certain amount of time, or you're trying to get these massively kind of difficult to reach thresholds. So a lot of variability there. As a multiplayer, there's a new expansion called the Community Expansion. It goes up to 5 players. Just don't do that. It's a lot, unless you love this game. But the Community Expansion itself is a pretty solid one. So that just came out this year. So it's in print and it's there. It's from Stronghold Games, so they should be taking a look at that. Pursuit of Happiness is a good one. All right, so the fourth game I want to talk about is Alien Artifacts. This one is from Portal Games. It is a clever little card game of expanding and exploring. You're kind of a space theme, and you're kind of colonizing stuff. This game got a really bad rap from some gamers at the start of its launch because it was advertised as the 4X game. Like, okay, you're going to play a 4X game now, only a little one, and it's going to take an hour, and you're going to have that same feeling, and that is incorrect. I had Ignacio on the show to talk about it, and he's like, yeah. I mean, people, it isn't that, but people got into the water, so to speak, that's what this game is. It's not, but it is so good. I mean, coming back to it more and more and more. There's a solo bot that someone invented, and I think that they're going to try to get solo in a separate expansion. The game is still being expanded. It's still available. I see it on sale a lot. Pick it up. I mean, the more I play that, the more I really like it. I had a problem with the randomness. There's like a random aspect to the point scoring, like especially when you get towards the end game. But the more I play, the more it's like, okay, this just kind of makes it a little bit fun. It's not that random. You're still going to score. The best player is still going to win. I'm still playing it. I still will continue to play it. I will enjoy each of the expansions. So especially if it's on sale, go ahead and take a look, see if it's worth your while. That is Alien Artifacts. The last game I want to talk about is the other game that Fabled Nexus released along with Spirit Island. So Spirit Island is a behemoth. If your person that you want to buy for it, if that person is yourself, loves cooperative, loves big time strategy, awesome theme, beautiful art, Spirit Island is your guy. But they released another game alongside of it that didn't do as well, not as popular. But it's still really good. I had a lot of fun with it. It is Fate of the Elder Gods. So Fate of the Elder Gods is kind of this worker placement take on the Cthulhu mythos, where you're actually playing the cultist trying to bring about the end of the world. It's very cartoony, very abstracted. So it's not like, you're not sacrificing anything. You're not actually doing evil stuff. It's more kind of abstracted. But it has a lot of really fun mechanisms. It has dice. Richard Launius was one of the co-designers. Of course, it has dice. I really enjoyed it. Solo was a little bit underbaked out of the box, but I hear from the grapevine that they are looking at expanding it again with a more kind of robust solo mode. So it might be that this game kind of comes back to the fore with some new content, with some new fresh ideas, and it's a really great base core experience. So take a look at Fate of the Elder Gods. So that's 5 games: Mole Rats in Space, Stop Thief, The Pursuit of Happiness, Alien Artifacts, and Fate of the Elder Gods. These are games that did not come out in 2018. They came out in 2017 and maybe even before, but they're worth a look. You might get them on sale. They're all excellent. They make really great gifts. So there you go. That is it for the episode. If you have any reaction to any of the stuff that we presented, I mean, the should I buy it format, I had a lot of fun because it gives me an excuse to reach out to people who I don't normally reach out to. So like Jay, who talked about Heroes of Terranoth, that was really fun for me. I love talking with new gamers and people who teach me stuff, who are intelligent, and help me kind of think through the games that I'm playing. I'm not a game designer. I try really hard, though, to be as smart as possible when it comes to like really helping you guys understand why you like a game and, help me understand why I like a game. I don't just take that for granted. But you guys give me feedback. Is that something that you want me to do a little bit more? Reach out to different people and, get their insights into games. Or you could talk about anything else. I'm at EAGN_podcast. Every Night is Game Night, the Facebook group, everynightisgamenight.com. Go ahead and check out the website, see all the episodes, all the preview series. We haven't done one in a while, but, that's just because I've had to scale it back for family reasons. I don't know when I'm going to get back to it. But if that's something that you want to see, or if you're a publisher that wants to feature your game, hit me up. We'll see if we can make something work. So if you guys can do me one big favor, give me a rating, 5 stars, however many stars you think we deserve over on the iTunes Store, especially because the Apple Podcast is kind of the big thing. But SoundCloud, Stitcher, the Google Play Store, everywhere we can get rating, it all helps to increase the exposure and get us going. So that is it. Happy Christmas. The next couple of episodes are going to be recaps from PAX. PAX happened a couple of weeks ago, but so we won't be directly answering the whole Christmas thing. But if I don't get a chance to actually say it directly, I hope everybody out there has a really amazing holiday season. And as always, go ahead and grab a game off of that shelf and let's make every night a game night.